We're just okay, and we play some
Movies.
games. We're just okay.
Movie
games.
watchers.
Welcome to another episode of Just Okay Movies. I'm your host, Superfly BiggieSize, and I'm joined by...
White supremacist Gweedo.
Nice. How you doing, Gweedo?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Can't complain. Well, we've got two films. We did switch one out. We were going to do Vice and The Favorite. But this week we're actually going to be doing BlacKkKlansman and The Favorite.
I gotta apologize because we told him last week that it would be Vice and BlacKkKlansman. And I dropped the ball. I didn't watch Vice.
Oh, it's no... In all honesty, we'll talk about it next week. It's okay. No one's really missing much with the Vice.
I'm still going to watch it.
Yeah, definitely got to watch it. And I recommend you all watching it, too. It was decent. We'll get into it next week. And because I'm kind of interested to hear your feel on it, Gweedo. It's, you know, if you've seen The Big Short... Like, when I was watching it, I was like, this feels like The Big Short. It's the same director. And when you start watching it, it's very apparent. So I'm interested to hear your feel on that one.
Okay.
But,
I like The Big Short.
You did? I didn't like it.
Oh.
I didn't like the editing. And that's going to come apparent on my views on Vice, even though it's a decent movie. But anyways, we'll get into that. But I really want to jump into BlacKkKlansman. Gweedo, you had seen this a while ago, and I think we talked about it on. Yeah, it's been a little while, and you talked about it on one of our episodes. I can't remember which one it was, but you know, I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. You know, I thought it was a pretty solid film.
I also enjoyed it and thought it was a solid film until a point.
Yes, and I agree with that point. I believe. Are we talking about the very end?
Yes.
Yes, it is very Spike Lee-ish, and I feel like his the one thing that I don't like about his films. I like Spike Lee, not a huge fan, but I respect him for being one who really likes to use his films as a what would you say, a soapbox, or, you know, just to kind of get this idea out here. Because did he also do Malcolm X? I can't remember. I want to say he did, but I could be wrong. Either ways, all of his films are very outspoken about a specific subject, and, you know, definitely, I mean, I guess it's not too much to say persecution of black people during those times is a really big subject for him, and it should be, because it is a very painful subject to speak about in our culture, and it's still here today, and that's kind of what he wants to get convey in this film. And I think he did a good job, but what Gweedo is mentioning, I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into it. At the very end, he starts referencing and showing footage of a lot of the neo-Nazi, I guess, Klansman white power riots that happened during 2017. I guess it was around the August time. And it fits in with the narrative of the film to a degree, but it feels extremely heavy-handed. Not that the subject is, you know, in any way it shouldn't be there, but it doesn't have a good flow to the end of the film. And
yes,
I don't know.
I
kind of have a hard time. Yeah,
it disrupts the ending, and it's also my argument back when I first saw it, and still is the same argument, is that we get the message watching the movie. It's about a black man and a Jewish man bringing down a local sect of the Ku Klux Klan in the 60s, 70s.
Yes.
So we get it. We understand where they're coming from. Racism is bad. I'm watching the movie because I agree with that racism is bad. And I want to see an interesting, you know, kind of adventure as to how these people take down this evil racist group. And that's what I'm there for. And then Spike Lee goes and hits you over the head at the very end of the movie like, see? You see? Now it's like it's like it was then, but now. See? And he's like pointing at it. He's got flashing lights around it. Like, get it? And I'm like, yeah, of course I fucking get it, man. I'm at the movie. I'm watching this, aren't I? Like, anyone that's watching this movie and might be racist or white supremacist or what have you, one, they're not going to watch a movie in the first place. They're never going to watch this movie. And two, if they do make it through this Spike Lee movie, they're not going to be like, oh, fuck. Shit, what am I doing with my life?
Right.
You know, it doesn't serve a purpose. We get it.
Right.
Everybody gets it. Spike.
Right. That's the thing about him, you know, he wants to get that message across, and sometimes he does it. I mean, throughout the film, to that point, it flows so well. I guess we should talk a little bit about what the film is. And Gweedo kind of hinted on the big points there. We'll go much further into that. But you have a guy who's joined the police force. He's a black guy from college, so very illiterate, very well educated, speaks great, and he wants to be a part of the police force. That is his passion. And he gets assigned to, really, he kind of assigns himself to it, is taking down the Klansman chapter of his town. I actually don't even know where he's located. Do they? Charlotte, isn't it? Is it Charlotte, North Carolina?
Sounds something like that.
It's
I
somewhere
can't
like
remember.
that. Racism is very apparent where he's at. And so it may be in the South somewhere. I'm not totally sure. It doesn't necessarily matter. And you're following him. And he also works with another white guy who's Jewish. And they work together, basically tag teaming, going after the Klansmen to see if they're dangerous. Because there's radicals inside this group that are wanting to have an uprising. Not all of them agree with doing the uprising, but some are powerful enough to make it happen. And that happens at the end of the film. They stop a bombing, and it's intense. It's fun to watch. It's sad that this was what was going on in the U.S. So, you know, watching it and being that this is a true story was painful. Seeing this happen, so you're already like, man, I'm really happy we're at least not to that level anymore. Not that it doesn't happen still, as he makes very apparent at the end. But it's still it's a feels good kind of ending that, you know, we prevailed at least against this plot. And then it just hits you with the showing the live footage of the cars that were like running through people in the Black Lives Matter what would you call them, riots and stuff going on, and people just dead on the ground from them, people crying. I mean, it's all real and it's all painful to see, but it just felt too much for this one movie to bear, and it feels like it just breaks apart at that very end. As a viewer, as someone who is I don't like any of this happening, it just felt gross. And maybe that's what he wanted, and knowing kind of him and kind of his style on things, it's apparent. And I don't necessarily think it ruins the rest of the film. It's all really good. It kind of hacks at it a bit. And I don't think it was necessary.
Right.
And it's so hard to talk about because there's so many conflicting emotions. And I think that's why I like the movie, is I really felt engaged in it. Even though I was not a part of that era, you know, I have no idea what it's like to be in that kind of persecution, or even being the person persecuting it. I don't know either side, and I get so wrapped up in it. And then that free fall happens at the end. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's such a weird thumbtack to put into the end of that fucking movie. And I understand. I completely understand why it's there. But the audience that he's speaking to, they get it. Everybody understands.
Yes.
And he's not going to make any changes. And that's what it seemed like. Like he put this, well, it started before the flashes to modern day shit with the two scenes going on simultaneously of the white supremacists watching a nation is born, and they're all yelling because the black people are getting lynched in this movie. And then at the same time, there's an old black man talking to a bunch of other black people about how bad it was in the 30s. You know?
Right.
And it's like, this, I know, but what does this have to do with the fun adventure that we were having of bringing down these horrible Ku Klux Klan members?
Right.
You know?
Right. Exactly. And I like that part quite a bit. I was really wanting to talk about that one is because it's a neat comparison. We don't see any films quite stylized like this, that it's taken to be a heavy subject done so lightheartedly. And it's fun because it feels kind of modern in its interpretation, at least early on. And it's great. But when you're switching between the two, and it just two complete extremes, you know, you would say almost, you know, the Ku Klux Klan being the extreme conservative, like I guess you could even call it conservative, radical almost. I don't think that's too off base. But it's also interesting how they also weigh the moderates in the middle that are on both sides. You know, you've got the police chief who's in the police station, he doesn't come off as racist, but you would say maybe he's got some, you know, maybe some folks in the past who's kind of shaped him the way he is. He doesn't completely respect him.
He's definitely
in that middle.
He's definitely inconvenienced by having to hire a black man.
Right. And that's interesting, and it's kind of neat to see, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that were more in that middle at that time. It's just you hear the heavy weights on both sides, and then you see the very radical people who are in the Black Power movement who are threatening violence against white people. And it's fascinating to see all three of these sections in this movie, and this one guy who's just a normal black guy who's very educated, having to move between all three of these sections and kind of fit in, because he doesn't want to lose who he is, because he sees that his people are being oppressed, as they are, and sadly it's still happening, but also have to fit in with this culture that's kind of in the middle in that transition period, and be able to stop those who are wishing harm on him. So it's so modern in how it operates, and I love it to death for that.
Right. Yeah. It's good, and it's funny too. There's a lot of good funny bits in it. And Adam Driver does a pretty good job as the Jewish guy who's kind of attempting to hide the fact that he's Jewish. Not so much hiding, just doesn't want to put it out on display.
Right.
And he's got a good character arc. The main guy, who's the actor's name escapes me, he does a good job too. Charismatic character, very charismatic guy. And it's just a fun little romp about these two policemen bringing down these bad people.
Right. And it's invigorating, seeing I guess that change in mentality when they're I like when they're, bless his heart, he's trying to stop the lady from dropping the bomb at the I guess we should get into the characters just a bit, the players. You've got the Adam Driver and the detective black guy who are both working together. And then you've got, what's his name, Doyle Dukes? I forget that Klansman's name. Real people. They're all real people who's kind of leading the group. And there's another guy named Felix who is more the radicalized one, that he wants to kill all the black people. And then on the other end, you have this girl who's the chapter president of the Black Power community in her school. Intellectual lady, very motivated to see black people prosper. All great. These all sound like normal players you would have during this time. At the very end, the black detective's trying to stop one of the ladies from the radical group from blowing up the Black Power lady's house and killing her. And an interesting part of it was he is he's got the lady down, he's gonna cuff her, and some cops pull up and they don't believe that he's a detective and just start beating the shit out of him. And it just pisses you off because you've been following this guy for so long and he's done so much to help, and they just still don't believe that he could be what he is. And I'm sure my blood pressure just hit the roof because I was pissed yelling at the screen. And I caught myself. I'm like, oh my God, I've gotten more into this film than I thought I did. And even when Adam Driver pulls up and says, no, he's an undercover cop, they just don't even believe it. They don't even believe him. And it's just so fascinating because it all feels like it could have really been happening at that point. And for that, it's just you get wrapped into that mindset, I guess, that they were in at the time, that they just couldn't believe this guy could actually be a detective. They actually thought he was raping or hurting this woman. Yeah. And it just gets you into the film. It's great. But as you're right, Guido, you just, at the end though, you just get hit by the actual reality. Even though this has all happened in some way, shape, or form, you hit the modern reality and of stuff you kind of already know, and it just sinks you.
I really liked the dynamic of so the cop, gosh, I gotta look up his name. The cop, Ron Stallworth, who is the actor's name. Yes. He formulates a friendship over the phone with a senator. I think it was a senator or a congressman. And it's Congressman. Oh gosh, do you know what Congressman is? It's played by Topher Grace, David Duke. David
Duke, yeah, the leader of the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh yeah, well, he wasn't a congressman, was he?
No, he was trying to run for Congress.
Okay, yeah. And he calls up David Duke to like register for the Ku Klux Klan or register Adam Driver for the Ku Klux Klan, because there's this he called to sign up for the Ku Klux Klan. Ron Stallworth did, the black guy, and they accepted him over the phone, so he couldn't go because he's black. So he sent Adam Driver, who's a Jewish man, to go to the meeting. Right. So anytime they're on the phone, the black guy's talking. Anytime they're in person, it's the Jewish man doing all the acting. So
what's funny is, just add one quick thing. I don't know if he really was an accent. He used his real name as his white persona, which comes to bite them in the ass later in the film because they make fun of him at the time. You're like, you just said all these racist things, but you used your real name, and they're expecting that real name.
But he calls David Duke to get signed up, and he ends up forming this friendship with David Duke. It's a one-sided friendship. David Duke thinks he's friends with the cop. The cop's just doing it to get more information about the Ku Klux Klan and the happenings in the area. But it comes to a point where near the end of the movie, the cop is assigned to be security for David Duke. So David Duke is coming to visit the Ku Klux Klan, the local chapter, which Adam Driver, the Jewish man, is pretending to be the black man who's pretending to be a white man at this meeting. So, but the black man is there on security. So you got the voice on the phone and you got the Jewish actor both in the same room playing two different people, but also the same person while meeting this one character and just totally like pulling the wool over all over his eyes. It's super clever and it's fun. And like, there's tense moments where you're like, uh-oh, is he going to get caught? Is he going to recognize his voice because he's been talking to him on the phone? And it's good. They have this whole bit where David Duke is like, I know you're a good guy and a white supremacist just like me. We want white is right. And the cop is like, well, how do you know that? And we're talking on the phone. He's like, well, you don't speak like them. He's like, how do they speak? And then like Topher Grace tries to do some jive or something for a second. And yeah, it's great. And then like the prank call at the very end of the movie was a good, nice little touch.
Oh, great. It's such a payoff. I mean, all that build up, you just get that nice payoff at the end. It's so great.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I thought was kind of interesting. The film really didn't do a lot. Places here and there. It did some, I guess you call it kind of stylized shots. It's very seldom. Like at the very beginning when they're at the rally and you had the more charged black speaker there, it would show like little glimpses of people's faces. I guess they're kind of like they're in the crowd, and I don't know what you call the style. It was very interesting. It looked very 70s to me at least, and I thought that was interesting. And then there was another part of the film where they're talking with the older gentleman who was kind of talking about his story about his friend who got killed in the 30s. And they do this really interesting shot. It's very quick, where he was talking about they brought him out to the streets, his friend, and like cut off his genitals and burned him alive. It was horrific. It was so gross. And he said they even used the picture as postcards for people to send to their family. And they did this quick shot where all the people in the room were standing behind him holding the postcards. And it did a quick like pan over all of them in like a second. And it was so interesting. But at the very end, what I thought was so weird and out of place, but I guess kind of cool, was it's the Ron and his girlfriend. He eventually ends up with the black girl president lady at the very end. And they're just chatting about he's wrapping up, putting stuff up. And they get a knock on the door. And actually, they're both probably still a little worried because now they know who they are. The other Klans member. So they grab their guns, they open the door, but then the next shot is a window and you see a little burning cross like really far out. But then when you turn back to them, they're like floating across the hallway, like they're on a conveyor belt. And it was just so strange. I didn't really know what to make of that whole ending. Did you get anything out of it, Gweedo? They just wanted to be kind of stylish. I didn't really know.
I thought that it was like, it was more just they light the cross and you see it, and their bodies are acting, They're not. I don't know. I don't even remember that much of that.
Okay.
It's been months since I've seen this movie.
That's fair. Yeah, I just watched it before recording, and I don't know. It was just little moments like that really were they were interesting, but just kind of out of place. But not enough where I'd be like, oh, this is weird. I don't know what the fuck's going on, like The Favorite. And it was just kind of odd, but ultimately
I'd just chalk it up to like that they were so shocked that their bodies were moving on their own accord kind of feeling,
Yeah. Or like, they had their guns still drawn out and they're focused, like they're not moving at all, just like almost frozen, moving down the hallway. Like maybe it was like their destiny is to like to continue fighting against that cross. Like they don't have control of what their future holds, because they're kind of two different sides of the spectrum going after the same enemy. One a little more radically and the other one a little more lawfully, you could say. But they're both together on the same crusade.
Yeah,
and
it's chaotic good versus lawful good.
Exactly. So that's the only thing I could take from it. I wasn't sure if there's just something I missed. I was curious on your take, because that's probably the most what would be the word, visual-esque interpretation of what's going on out of the whole film. The rest of it is pretty cut and dry, but that was definitely out of place.
Standard Spike Lee fare.
Yes.
I don't think he's not really known for making his DP do a bunch of stylized shots and shit.
Right. Normally it's straight to the point with some added flair. And he's a good director. I like him a lot. I think he's made quality stuff, and I like this film too. I don't know, it's definitely not Academy worthy. It's closer than like A Star Is Born or Black Panther and all of those, but still it's not like Moonlight, or whatever that one was called. I mean, it's not quite in the same ballpark when it comes to that, like really touching movie.
Right.
I would put that closer to like Green Book, and that, as you said, 2 + 2 = 4. There's not much else going on here other than trying to tell this story that happened in this particular time. But that's not a bad thing. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like it's just a formula. You're there for like a cool kind of adventure, like I've said about these guys bringing down these evil people, and you get that. So it delivers, but it's nothing special.
No, it's definitely nothing crazy, or it doesn't have to be crazy. It's standard fare, but told very, very well. And I can respect that. I'd say out of the films I've seen so far, this and Green Book have probably been two of the ones I've enjoyed the most.
Hey, I just had a wacky idea. You tell me what you think of this.
Go for it.
After the Oscars, we pick 3 of our favorite movies.
Okay.
Of the year. And then we come up with the Just Okay Movies Academy Award.
Ooh, that's actually nice. I like that. We will definitely do that. I like that a lot, actually. Well, how many popcorns would you give this film?
Oh, popcorns. I'd give it like a 3
out of 4.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm with you there. I think a solid 3 is what it deserves. It could do a little better job, and mainly maybe doing something different with the end part. If you want to show the footage, go for it, but it's hard to explain. It's heavy. It's a little too heavy for the message you're wanting to tell. Because I almost feel like I need to talk. I feel like in some ways we talked about that last part more than the film itself, and that's really sad because the film tells a better story.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree. 3 out of 4 popcorn sounds great. Okay. So our next film we're going to be talking about tonight is a film called The Favorite, and how this movie is the biggest piece of shit I have seen in God knows how long. Actually, this may actually be in the top 3 worst films I've ever seen.
Holy cow.
I hate it so much. I didn't finish it, but honestly, if the first 15 minutes is enough to make me sick of watching something, and then I get about the halfway point, I would rather be punching myself or doing work because I feel like I'm wasting my time. I don't feel like I should give the film the rest of my time. Like, my time is worth more than this garbage I'm watching right now. And I haven't felt that for very many films. But this one is so pretentious, poorly acted, poorly written piece of crap I've ever seen, and it is the bottom of my list. In fact, I probably put it at the bottom of every list. If we were going to keep like a cumulative list, which I guess we kind of did for a little while, of films, it would stay at the bottom. No other film would touch it. Because I don't care how visually interesting your film is. I don't care how unique your film is. But my God, if you're not respecting my time with what you're trying to share to me, then what am I supposed to get from this? I kind of equated this film and what I've seen of it as those who, how you always hear about them, and I'm sure they actually exist, like in France, where they have various amounts of cheeses, okay? And they say they've got those cheeses that are just so potent and that smell just so rough that even like taking a bite of it would make you puke. Okay.
Yeah.
And that would be the normal reaction for any person. But then you have those people who, even if they ate it, they would puke. They would say, no, this is just the finest cheese I've ever had. Even though if I eat a little bit, I'm going to throw up and be sick to my stomach. Yet they still say it's a really good cheese. This is how I feel about this film. Because I feel like it's going to be split between those two people. People who are like, this is crap. I don't care how visual it is or how great the costumes are. It's crap. And then you have those who are like, probably had a hard time watching it too, but like, no, it's inspiring. It's beautiful. It touches every bit of humanity. That's kind of how I feel about this movie. It's a stinky ass cheese that no one really enjoys, but some people fake too. Is that too rough?
No, I mean, I don't know. You basically said that it's the worst movie of all time. That's what you just pretty much said. And then you went on to insult people that like it. So yeah, I guess it's kind of bad.
You're right. Maybe that was a bit strong. Hey, you guys like whatever you want. I have not seen too many films in my life. I could just say what I've seen, and it's bad. It's very bad. So Gweedo, what'd you think?
Oh man, I love this movie.
Oh, you did? Really?
No, I didn't. So the premise of The Favorite is the Queen of England. They're at war with France, and the Queen is falling ill. She's a large cunt of a woman, just a curmudgeon and a horrible person. She has a maiden, I suppose, a lady of the court that is her right side woman, who does all the aristocratical kind of dealings for her because she's out sick, but she does it for her own personal benefit. Basically, she became the favorite of the queen so that she could rise her own status. So she like, I don't know, faked it. She faked it until she made it, I suppose. And then enter another woman. Her name is Abigail. She used to live the high life. She used to be a lady, and her father was rich, but her father was killed or something. I don't even remember. And she fell into hard times, basically became a prostitute, traveled to the court or to the Queen's castle where she could get a job as a maiden, like just a handsmaid, like cleaning and shit. So that she didn't have to prostitute anymore, but she used her connection of her father, who is the Queen's uncle or nephew or something like that. They're related somehow. And through a series of manipulative, deceptive acts, Abigail rises in the favor of the Queen, and the other lady becomes less favorable by the Queen. And that's it.
Oh, geez.
It's I shut it off. I turned it off. I couldn't watch it because I was just so uninterested. I was looking at Reddit. I was looking at my phone. I couldn't keep my attention on this movie. And the acting is okay. Like, there's some good scenes and shit in the end.
Yeah.
But I'm all right, Biggie. You watched 20 minutes of this film, okay? I fucking powered through it.
Yes, I understand. That's everyone knew their lines and acted as if they were a character of some sort. I will agree with you there.
The Queen does a good job acting because her health deteriorates throughout the movie to the point where she's like basically speaking out of one side of her mouth and is just like can barely keep her eyes open, is muttering, is just in very poor health. So she does a good job. And then Emma Stone, who is the one that was the prostitute, she does a good job in that at the beginning of the movie, their intention is that you're supposed to like her or think that she's clever in manipulating her way through the courts. But near the end of the film, she like poisons the other woman and basically just becomes one of these shitty people. And all the warning signs were there for the audience to notice that. So they do like this kind of weird switcheroo where the first one, Rachel Weisz, the lady that was with the Queen at the beginning, she seemed like a bitch at the start. And then Emma Stone seemed like the person that you're supposed to root for. And then halfway through the movie, their lines intersect where they're both pieces of shit pretty much. And then eventually she poisons Rachel Weisz. Rachel Weisz gets banished. Emma Stone tells the Queen that she's stealing money. So the Queen sends guards to her estate and banishes her from the countryside along with her husband. And in the meantime, the Queen had feelings. Like there's a lesbian triangle. Did you get to the lesbian part?
I skipped through and started seeing some lesbian stuff. I just kept going. I just kept skipping through the rest of the film.
The Queen loved Rachel Weisz. But she was the Queen, and Rachel Weisz was, treating her like someone that she cared about, like a lover. So she would like tell her honestly about stuff and, call her a cunt to her face. And she's like, you can't do that. I'm the Queen. Until the Queen was like, well, if you're going to treat me like this, I'm just going to go with Emma Stone over here. And that's what she did until the very end where Emma Stone is just a giant pile of trash. And the Queen is like, oh, fuck. I had the one that I wanted. I had I had the connection. I was just too full of shit to see it. And now I'm stuck with this whore. And, it ends the movie with Emma's like the Queen getting out of bed all decrepit, and she's like, rub my legs, because she has gout in her legs, horrible gout. And Emma Stone she goes down on her knees and like is rubbing her legs, and it's this close-up shot of Emma Stone's face like bobbing in and out, symbolically like she's still this prostitute. And she's just now the Queen's prostitute. And the Emma Stone's face gets this kind of like, I don't know, moment of clarity where she's like, oh, fuck. Like I'm still just a prostitute. I can drink and I can sleep around in the courts and I can dance and wear fancy clothes, but I'm still this bitch. And the Queen is making her feel this way because she knows that she manipulated her to get her in the position that she is, while also banishing and making a martyr out of the one that she truly cared about. And it sounds interesting, right? It sounds interesting.
You are making this film sound too good.
I am. I stopped watching it. I only finished it because we had a podcast to do, and I felt like, well, if BiggieSize watched the whole thing, then I guess I should watch the whole thing.
God, no.
So it like, there's parts of it that you're like, well, at least me, I'm like, oh, I see. Like, I see behind all that shit, let me get a fucking wet nap and like squeegee it off. Oh, there's a glimmer of like a decent movie in there. But it's so boring and stupid. And like you don't care about the characters at all. At all. They're all cunts. All three of them.
Right.
They're all horrible people.
Right.
So like you're just like watching it like, why am I doing this? Why am I watching this? It's not, there's some good dialogue. There's some little quips and shit in there. And that was what kind of kept me inching along through this movie. But it's just like, it's so boring.
It is C-SPAN boring. Like, that's kind of what you feel like that's what I feel like I was watching. There's all these like kind of political things going on, like what you said, like Emma Stone trying to get her place and all that stuff. But it's just so uninteresting in how it's executed. So there's some very stylish shots that I saw from my time watching it.
They used fisheye lens a ton. And I was watching it like, what the fuck are you doing using a fisheye? This isn't a fucking Thrasher skateboard goddamn video. This isn't goddamn fucking Shorty's sponsored Chad Muska skating down a fucking stairwell or something. It's a fucking Victorian era goddamn period piece movie.
I agree. Some of the camera work, especially on some of the day shots, look so fucking cheap, like it was shot on a phone. It lacked. If they were going for realism, they nailed it, but it just felt so lifeless from the images to the people. The story they were trying to tell, the way you explained it was great from my reading synopsis and stuff about it. It sounds interesting. It's just executed so damn poorly. And it angers me. I mean, it's really disappointing. They had that cool house to shoot all the stuff in. They have some skilled actors. Emma Stone's a really good actress. I like her. But man, what happened? And I'm kind of equating it to the director because it felt like The Lobster, although it felt worse. Because at least in The Lobster, you felt for the character. It was written where you care about the character. Everyone felt kind of lifeless, kind of like this movie. And but at least the story was progressing. It had some interesting parts, but this just. Go, you know what? Honestly, don't pay to watch it. Go on a site and stream it for free if you just want to get an idea on how you just royally mess up an okay premise. And I don't know what else to say, I'm dumbfounded and I'm angered by it.
Shame on you, the favorite. More the least favorite.
In all honesty, I think the Academy Award people just saw the title, just saw the poster. They're like, oh yeah, that one. That one. They're doing a Victorian thing. Of course it's going to be on this list. And
the Academy is just, they're smoking crack or something this year.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I call it now. Let me say it. Can I call my Oscar winner for Best Picture right now?
Go for it. I think we only have one film left, 2 films kind of talk about. So yeah, go for it.
It's not, I haven't even watched it yet. It's gonna win. Roma is gonna win Best Picture. There's no way it's not gonna win. And I'll tell you why. Because the Academy is fucking trifling with politics, man.
Yeah.
During the government shutdown and building the wall, of course the Academy's going to pick the Mexican foreign language film to win the Best Picture this year. Of course they are.
Absolutely. Same thing with Moonlight. I totally agree. It's a fantastic film. And honestly, out of that list, it's the one I would pick. And I feel the same way for this one. It's the one, if you're going to put politics into it, it's going to win. And in all honesty, I don't have really a problem with that. Roma is a decent film that I watched half of, but it is a really solid film. But the problem with it is it's just style. It's all style. You just have a hard time really gaining that substance. But there is something there where like The Favorite and just doesn't belong here because it's just a bad film. You know, Star is Born, I'm not sure why it's here either. It's a competently put together movie, but it is severely outclassed, which is sad considering what we have to work with here. Black Panther, kind of the same thing. As you say, Green Book's probably just a little too simplistic, the win. So Roma, of course, makes perfect sense. And that's not bad.
No, it's not. And also, like, you'd think that they put in BlacKkKlansman, Black Panther, and Green Book as the civil rights kind of political stance. Like, hey guys, we got a bunch of black actors up for best actor. We put in these movies that garnered a lot of black audiences or showcased civil rights. And so please give us a pass this year as we pick the Mexican one because of the wall and Donald Trump and shit.
Right. Yeah.
And then to top it off, they have A Star is Born and Bohemian Rhapsody as the fuckers that are there to get the white people to watch the show.
Right. Right.
Like,
and you're totally right. And
I can't see any other one winning. I can't.
No, you're absolutely right. Roma is the one that makes sense. It's also the one that's had the most hype going into a movie awards season. I'm kind of shocked that it didn't win Golden Globes. That surprised me a little bit. But I would be totally shocked if any other films on this list win. The only one I could potentially imagine winning would be actually, no, I can't. And honestly, Roma's going to win. I'm putting all my money on it. There's just no other film on this list. Vice, maybe, but I highly doubt it. Hell, maybe Bohemian Rhapsody, maybe, but Roma's going to do it. And you know what? I'm okay with that. But ultimately, I think it comes down to it's an industry awards show. You know, just because it wins doesn't mean it's the best film of this entire year. Yeah. It just got picked by a bunch of people who have been put on this panel, heavily influenced by outside pressures. I mean, there's a lot of money in Roma. If it wins, that means just more streaming revenue for Netflix. What have you else for these production companies? It's like, you've got to also keep that into account when looking at all these films. And it's okay not to get too butthurt like I did with The Favorite, to say, you know, it wins, great, you know, it's an okay film. And then just move on with your life.
No, I'm coming from a different place because growing up, I always watched the Academy Awards with my family. And for the past over a decade, I think, I've made it a point to watch every single one that's nominated, every single picture that's nominated for Best Picture. And this year is the worst it's ever been. At least since I've been watching. So, like, I'm sure maybe when I was a kid, there were some years where it's like, what the fuck were they thinking? But, like, even the past 5 or 6 years, there's been movies where you're like, oh, okay, at least there's a running between, like, 3 movies that you're like, oh, it could be this one, but I want it to be this one. And this year just seems so fucking transparent on what they're trying to do with the nominations.
Oh no, I would agree with you there.
It's the same thing. It's like they've taken the Disney approach. They want to appease every single demographic, and that's what the nominees are,
right?
But with a very heavy liberal bias. Yes. But that's Hollywood.
It is Hollywood.
Man. It's fucking weird and shitty.
It is. I totally agree. And
sorry, can I continue to rant?
Keep going, man. Yeah, keep going. I want to hear it.
Also, the way that they handle the nominations is complete garbage. In that, pretty much studios have to pay for nominations. They have to dump millions of dollars to get that nomination. Stars Born, their budget for the Academy Awards to get that nomination, you want to take a guess?
$10 million.
$20 million.
Holy crap.
$20 million. Netflix threw in all they had on Roma because it's a marketing ploy. Just like you said, people will tune into Netflix to watch it.
Right.
Bohemian Rhapsody also, just tons of money. And like, it's a shame because studios like A24, they had 3 solid, good movies that are blow all of the nominations out of the water. But they're a small company. They don't have money to toss at the Academy to get their pictures up there. So it's nuts. It's stupid, and I hate it.
But you also kind of love it a bit.
I do. Well, yeah. I mean, I love the pageantry of the Academy Awards. It's
correct.
I do love it, but this year's nominations just, man, it's just like stuck a thorn in my paw, and I don't think that thorn's coming out anytime soon.
No, I totally agree. Come on, do better, Academy. I mean, Jesus. I mean, I guess you know, most of the films we've done on here have been superhero films and things like that, because that's what a lot of people watch and enjoy. And I guess I kind of find it interesting that Black Panther got on there for that very same reason. But some of the rest of them, you're right, they just had the checkbook, because I just can't see how like A Star Is Born could make it on there other than they had a checkbook. And that's very disheartening.
Yeah,
because so much pressure is put onto this event for something that if you just got enough money in your account, you can probably do it.
Yeah.
I guess that's just that,
Oh, well.
Well, if you've got any strong opinions about anything we've talked about on this episode, I feel like we've hit all over the place, and it's great, and I love it. But we want to know what you think. Shoot us an email to justokmovies@gmail.com. Also, if you want to send us a tweet, I haven't got any new tweet followers. Come on, guys. Follow us. I want to hear your opinions. Tweet them at us at justokmovies. And we forgot to give this movie a popcorn rating. What are you going to give it? The favorite?
1. I mean,
Big
you
old
can't get
goose egg.
Yeah, my dad's rule was you can't give movies 0 because you always get popcorn when you go to the movies.
Okay, that's fair. I'm gonna give it. Let's see.
You could go inside the theater and bring like a bucket out of the can and just go on the floor and scrape up like the remnants that people dropped on the ground and put that in the bucket.
Okay, I'm. How about yeah, I'm fine with that. I was also thinking like a big, massive bag of just the pre-popped kernels.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like,
you technically
what do you want me
got
to do with
popcorn.
this movie? I technically got popcorn, but it's a bunch of popcorn I can't do nothing with.
Right.
And
it's
this
not
is how I
enjoyable.
feel like this movie is. Exactly. Like, what am I supposed to do with this 2-hour thing of film? Am I supposed to like it? Am I supposed to hate it?
It's gonna take some time and metal and 375 degrees of heat to make this into something good.
Yes, we're going back to the drawing board. We need a rework. Yes, I totally agree. So I guess that's our rating on it. Well, next week we will be finishing this up, talking about or we might not. I don't know. Do you want to talk about any more of these films next week, or you want to do something new?
we could do something new. You know, I'm sure. I don't know. What does the audience think? Have they just shut off while we've been talking about Academy Awards for the past few weeks?
They probably have. Our last episode's been our lowest one, which I can understand. Guys, I understand. People, they want that Infinity War.
Not going to do much better.
It's not. Except they're going to be like, man, Biggie and Gweedo got really on some serious topics, going from racism to politics and the movie industry and real life. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well, what can you do? Well, we'll be doing something next week. Thank you so much for listening, and we greatly appreciate you guys. Gweedo, as always, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, and we will see you all next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.